Far beyond the busy trade routes of the galaxy, there was a region of space that every civilization feared. It was known simply as the Forbidden Zone. For more than 10,000 years, no ship had entered that region. Ancient records spoke about fleets that disappeared there without warning. Entire armadas had gone in, but none had ever come back. Because of this mystery, the Galactic Council created a law long ago. No ship, from any civilization, was allowed to enter the Forbidden Zone. Most species followed this rule without question. It was easier to stay away from danger than to discover what waited inside that dark region of space. But on a quiet day, inside the massive galactic monitoring station, something unusual happened. The station floated in deep space, surrounded by thousands of satellites and sensors. Its only job was to watch the borders of the galaxy and detect any strange activity. Inside the control room, Officer Tauren, a tall gray-skinned alien from the Virex species, was calmly reviewing sensor reports. The shift had been quiet, just like every other day. Nothing interesting ever happened near the Forbidden Zone. Until suddenly, one of the screens flashed red. Tauren frowned and leaned closer. The computer had detected something crossing the border. At first, he thought it was a sensor error. That happened sometimes with long-range scanners. But the signal didn't disappear. Instead, it became clearer. A ship had just entered the Forbidden Zone. Tauren immediately sat up straight. "That can't be right," he whispered. He ran the scan again. The result was the same. One ship. Moving slowly. Heading deeper into the Forbidden Zone. Tauren quickly called the supervisor on duty. "Sir, you need to see this." Within seconds, the quiet control room became tense. Several officers gathered around the main screen. Everyone stared at the blinking signal moving across the map. The supervisor crossed his arms. "Identify the ship." Tauren typed several commands into the console. The computer began analyzing the signal. For a moment, the room stayed silent except for the soft sound of machines running. Then the result appeared on the screen. Ship identification, human origin. The entire room froze. One of the officers spoke first. "A human ship?" Another officer shook his head in disbelief. "That's impossible. Humans know the law." Humans were one of the newest civilizations in the galaxy. They had joined the galactic community only a few hundred years ago. Many species believed humans were brave, but also reckless. Still, even humans knew the danger of the Forbidden Zone. Tauren zoomed in on the signal. The ship was not large. It was not a massive warship or a battle fleet. It was only one ship. But what made everyone uncomfortable was the way it was moving. The vessel was not wandering like a lost explorer. It was traveling in a perfect straight path. Almost like the crew knew exactly where they were going. The supervisor immediately gave an order. "Send this report to the Galactic Council." Within minutes, emergency messages spread across the galaxy. Leaders from dozens of alien civilizations joined a sudden council meeting. The large holographic chamber filled with worried faces as everyone watched the same screen. The signal of the human ship continued moving deeper into the Forbidden Zone. One council member spoke nervously. "Humans must have made a terrible mistake." Another leader disagreed. "No. That ship is not lost." Everyone looked closer at the data. The ship's engines were steady. Its navigation systems were stable. There were no signs of panic or damage. Then a scientist studying the sensors noticed something strange. "Wait." He zoomed in on the signal again. "This ship is heading directly toward the center of the Forbidden Zone." The room became silent. Everyone in the galaxy knew what was located there. The place where the ancient fleets had vanished. The darkest point in that cursed region. If the human ship continued its path, it would reach that location in less than 2 hours. But before anyone could speak again, the monitoring station suddenly detected something else. Deep inside the forbidden zone, ancient sensors were waking up. Signals that had been silent for thousands of years suddenly came online. Across the galaxy, alarms started ringing. Something inside the forbidden zone had noticed the human ship. And whatever it was, it had just begun to wake up. The alarms inside the galactic monitoring station continued to echo through the control room. Officers rushed from one console to another, trying to understand what was happening inside the forbidden zone. For thousands of years, the region had remained completely silent. Now, ancient signals were appearing one after another. Officer Tauren watched the screen carefully. Strange energy readings were rising deep inside the dark region of space. The sensors could barely understand them. It was as if something extremely old had suddenly powered on. Tauren spoke nervously. "Sir, these signals are not coming from the human ship." The supervisor frowned. "Then where are they coming from?" Tauren zoomed out the galactic map. Several red points appeared inside the forbidden zone. "They are coming from multiple locations," he said quietly. The supervisor's face became pale. That meant one thing. The forbidden zone was not empty. Meanwhile, inside the Galactic Council chamber, leaders from many civilizations continued to watch the human ship moving slowly through the forbidden region. The giant holographic display showed the vessel clearly now. It was not a large warship. It was smaller than most military cruisers. But its design looked strange. The ship's surface was smooth and dark, with long antenna structures and unusual engine patterns. Many alien engineers studying the image could not understand its technology. One council member finally spoke. "We must stop that ship immediately." Another leader nodded. "If it awakens whatever lives in that region, the entire galaxy could be in danger." A message was quickly sent to the human government. Within minutes, a response arrived. The message was short. "The situation is under control. Please do not interfere." The council chamber became filled with angry voices. One alien commander slammed his hand on the table. "Under control? That ship is about to reach the most dangerous location in the galaxy." Another leader spoke more calmly. "Perhaps the humans do not understand the history of that place." But deep down, many council members felt something even more troubling. The human message had sounded too calm. Back at the monitoring station, the sensors detected another strange event. Large energy waves were spreading through the forbidden zone. Tauren stared at the readings. "Sir, I think something is moving." The supervisor leaned closer. "What kind of movement?" Tauren increased the sensor power. The computer struggled for several seconds before showing a faint image. Then everyone in the room gasped. Gigantic structures were appearing in the darkness. Massive objects were slowly activating. Each one was larger than a moon. Tauren whispered in shock. These structures were not here before. One scientist nearby corrected him. They were always there. They were just sleeping. The ancient machines began sending signals across space. Some of the signals were so old that modern computers could barely translate them. But one thing became clear. Those machines had detected the human ship. Yet strangely, they had not attacked it. Inside the council chamber, the leaders received the same new data. The room fell silent again as the images appeared. Dozens of gigantic machines were waking up around the human vessel. These machines were ancient defense systems from a forgotten time. Many historians believed they were the same weapons that destroyed the fleets long ago. But something unexpected was happening. Instead of targeting the human ship, the machines were moving away from its path. One by one, the massive structures slowly shifted position, creating a safe corridor through the forbidden zone. The council members stared at the screen in disbelief. One leader whispered quietly. "This is impossible. Another scientist spoke slowly. It looks like those machines recognize the ship. The small human vessel continued flying forward without changing speed. No weapons were activated. No distress signals were sent. It moved calmly through the corridor of ancient machines. Almost like it had done this before. And then the sensors detected something even more shocking. At the very center of the forbidden zone, something enormous had just begun to power on. Deep inside the forbidden zone, something ancient had begun to wake. Across the galaxy, thousands of sensors suddenly detected a powerful wave of energy spreading through space. The wave was slow but massive, like the heartbeat of something enormous coming back to life. Inside the Galactic Monitoring Station, every screen was now filled with warning signals. Officer Tauren stared at the numbers in front of him. "These readings, they are too large," he said quietly. The supervisor stepped closer. "How large?" Tauren took a deep breath. "Large enough to power an entire empire." The room became silent. Whatever was activating inside the forbidden zone was not a single machine. It was something far bigger. The small human ship continued flying deeper into the dark region. From the outside, the vessel looked calm and controlled. Its engines burned steadily as it followed the safe path through the ancient machines. Behind it, the giant structures remained silent. They watched. But they did not attack. Across the galaxy, scientists and military commanders were trying to understand the situation. Some believed the humans had discovered a secret technology. Others believed the human crew was simply lucky. But one thing was becoming very clear. The human ship was not afraid. It was flying exactly where it intended to go. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, tension filled the room. Dozens of alien leaders watched the live sensor feed. The small human ship was now very close to the center of the forbidden zone. A region where no civilization had ever survived. One council member finally spoke. "If that ship activates whatever is hidden there, the entire galaxy could suffer the consequences." Another leader turned to the human ambassador present in the meeting. "You must order your ship to turn back immediately." The human ambassador sat quietly for a moment. Then he gave the same answer as before. "Do not interfere." The council members became angry. "You cannot expect us to simply watch this." The ambassador remained calm. "You will understand soon." Back inside the forbidden zone, the sensors detected something new. The small human ship had reached the center. At first, the scanners saw nothing except darkness. Then slowly, something enormous appeared. A massive cloud of dark matter surrounded the central region of space. Inside that cloud, the sensors began detecting shapes. Large shapes. Extremely large shapes. Tauren's hands trembled as he increased the sensor power. The computer struggled to process the information. Then finally, the images became clear. What appeared on the screen made everyone freeze. Thousands of ships. Gigantic warships hidden deep inside the cloud. Each vessel was enormous. Many were larger than the biggest battleships used by the galactic empires. The ships were arranged in perfect formation, like a sleeping army waiting for orders. One scientist whispered in disbelief. This is an entire fleet." Another officer shook his head slowly. "No, this is something bigger than a fleet." Tauren zoomed closer on one of the vessels. The shape of the ship looked strangely familiar. Long armored hull. Heavy weapon towers. Massive engine structures. The computer suddenly finished analyzing the design. And the result shocked everyone. Origin. Human technology. The entire room fell silent. Thousands of ancient warships were hidden inside the forbidden zone. And they were all human. At that exact moment, the small human ship sent a signal. A single transmission. The message was not sent to the Galactic Council. It was sent directly to the sleeping fleet. Seconds later, the first warship began to move. Its engines slowly powered on. Blue light spread across its massive hull. Then another ship activated. And another. Soon the entire cloud of ancient vessels began waking up. Across the galaxy, sensors detected the same terrifying truth. The Forbidden Zone was never empty. It had been hiding something all along. A massive human war fleet. And it had just been awakened. Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. Sensors from hundreds of civilizations were now locked on the Forbidden Zone. The readings were growing stronger every second. The energy coming from the ancient fleet was unlike anything the modern galaxy had ever seen. Inside the Galactic Monitoring Station, the control room had become completely silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Everyone simply stared at the massive formation of warships slowly waking up inside the dark cloud. Officer Tauren finally broke the silence. There are too many of them. The supervisor nodded slowly. How many? Tauren looked at the data again. Thousands, maybe more. Each ship was enormous. Some of them were several kilometers long. Their hulls were thick and covered with heavy weapon systems. Massive engine structures glowed with ancient but powerful energy. These ships were not explorers. They were built for war. And they had been sleeping here for thousands of years. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the leaders of the galaxy watched the same terrifying images. Many of them had never seen technology like this before. The warships looked old, but their power readings were stronger than any modern military fleet. One council member spoke in a worried voice. How could humanity build something like this? Another scientist answered slowly. These ships are extremely ancient. Much older than modern human civilization. The room grew quiet again. That statement raised a disturbing question. If these ships were human, then who built them? Meanwhile, inside the small human ship, the captain watched the awakening fleet through the main window. The crew members stood quietly behind him. One officer spoke carefully. Captain, the fleet is responding. The captain nodded. Good. Begin the activation sequence. The officer pressed several commands on the console. Across the cloud of ancient ships, signals began spreading from one vessel to another. Slowly, the entire fleet continued powering up. Massive lights turned on across their armored hulls. Huge weapon systems began calibrating. Ancient computers restarted after thousands of years of silence. It looked like a sleeping giant was stretching its arms after a very long rest. Back in the council chamber, the human ambassador finally stood up. All eyes turned toward him. One alien leader demanded answers. You knew about this fleet. The ambassador remained calm. Yes. Another leader shouted angrily. Why hide something like this from the galaxy? The ambassador looked at the massive fleet on the holographic screen. Then he answered quietly. Because the galaxy was not ready to know. That answer only created more confusion. What do you mean? The ambassador folded his hands behind his back. Long ago, before the modern civilizations existed, the galaxy faced a threat. A threat so powerful that entire empires were destroyed. The council members listened carefully. No one remembers those events anymore, the ambassador continued. History forgot them. But humanity did not. The leaders looked shocked. You expect us to believe humans existed that long ago? The ambassador gave a small smile. No. Humanity did not exist then. But someone left us the responsibility. He pointed toward the Forbidden Zone. That fleet was built as a last defense. For the day the galaxy might need protection again. At that moment, the sensors detected a massive surge of energy. One of the ancient warships had fully activated its engines. The ship slowly moved forward. Then another warship followed. And another. Soon the entire fleet began moving into formation. Thousands of massive vessels slowly turned toward open space. Across the galaxy, every military commander watched in fear. Because the direction those ships were facing was toward the rest of the galaxy. But before panic could spread, the small human ship sent a transmission to the Galactic Council. The captain appeared on the screen. His voice was calm. "Do not be afraid. This fleet is not waking up to attack the galaxy." The council chamber waited in silence. Then the captain finished his sentence. "It is waking up. Because something else is coming." For a long moment, the Galactic Council chamber remained completely silent. Every leader stared at the human captain on the screen. Something else was coming. Those words echoed in everyone's mind. One council member finally spoke with a tense voice. "What do you mean something is coming?" The human captain did not answer immediately. Behind him, the window of his ship showed the enormous ancient fleet slowly moving into formation. Thousands of warships now floated in the darkness like a giant metallic ocean. Their engines glowed softly as they prepared to move. Then the captain spoke again. For thousands of years, the Forbidden Zone was not a prison. It was a watchtower. The council members looked confused. "A watchtower for what?" one of them asked. The captain turned slightly and looked out at the massive fleet. "For something that lives beyond our galaxy." Inside the Galactic Monitoring Station, Officer Tauren suddenly saw a new warning appear on his console. His eyes widened. "Sir, we are detecting something outside the galactic border." The supervisor rushed to his side. "What kind of signal?" Tauren increased the sensor range. The computers struggled to understand the strange readings. Whatever the sensors were detecting was extremely far away. Then the image appeared. A massive distortion in space. Like a storm tearing through the darkness. The station's computers estimated the size of the object entering the galaxy. Tauren's voice trembled as he read the numbers. "It's enormous." "How enormous?" the supervisor asked. Tauren slowly turned toward him. "Larger than a planet." The entire control room fell silent again. Whatever was approaching the galaxy was something no one had ever seen before. Back in the Forbidden Zone, the ancient human fleet had finished activating. Thousands of gigantic warships now moved together in perfect formation. Their massive engines burned with powerful blue light. Weapon systems larger than cities slowly rotated into position. These ships had not been built for ordinary battles. They had been built to fight something much worse. Inside the small human ship, the captain watched the fleet with calm confidence. One of his officers spoke quietly. "The fleet is ready, Captain." "Good," the captain replied. "Send the signal." The officer pressed the command. Across the fleet, a powerful transmission spread from ship to ship. Within seconds, the entire ancient armada began moving. The massive vessels left the darkness of the Forbidden Zone and entered open space. Across the galaxy, millions of sensors detected the same shocking event. The ancient fleet was leaving its hiding place. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, panic began spreading among the leaders. Thousands of human warships were now moving toward the galaxy. Some commanders immediately began preparing their own fleets for defense. But before anyone could act, the human captain spoke again through the communication channel. "You misunderstand. This fleet is not coming for you." The council members listened carefully. The captain pointed toward the holographic map of the galaxy. A new signal had appeared near the outer border. The strange object detected by the monitoring station was getting closer. The distortion in space was growing larger. Scientists watching the data suddenly realized the terrifying truth. Something massive was entering the galaxy. Something powerful enough to destroy entire civilizations. The human captain continued speaking calmly. For thousands of years, humanity kept this fleet hidden. Not to control the galaxy, but to protect it. The council members watched the ancient fleet now moving toward the outer border. Thousands of warships formed a defensive line between the galaxy and the approaching darkness. The captain gave one final message before ending the transmission. Today you will understand why the Forbidden Zone existed. It was never meant to keep you out. It was meant to keep something else away. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, the massive unknown object moved closer. And for the first time in thousands of years, the ancient human guardian fleet prepared for war.